fresh as rain could never bring the change of heart that you have brought in me. The sweetest song could never say the words of love I want to say to you. I wait upon this sunlit space, my one. Your voice so gently calling. You wait, your heart is opened up so wide to catch the love that's falling from my eyes. The deepest sea could never fill the empty parts that you have filled in me. The strongest force could never break the link of love that you have showed to me. I wait upon this windswept place, my one. My heart is flying, soaring. You wait upon your golden throne of light. Your voice so gently calling me to your land.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the series of reflections, stories to recharge and rejuvenate. Firstly, I would like to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. As one of the many, there's a famous quote that Christmas season is not only just for rejoicing, but also for reflection. So I'm very happy to invite and welcome our international guest speaker today, Ken Orderman. So welcome, Ken. Ken is
welcome to you too. It's lovely to be here.
Ken is the coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris Organization in Latin America. Originally from Australia, he has been in South America since 1979. Ken is a management consultant, a corporate trainer, but also a musician and a poet. And along with that, he has written up to 19 books. So he's a very well-known author as well and a motivational speaker. So a lot of things and a vast experience there, doing so many things. And I'm sure on this journey, there's always a lot of stories you have gathered. And the topic for today, which is calm in calamity. So we would really love to hear your story about what calamity did you face? What was the earthquake that happened? And when did it happen? And how did you feel? How did you manage it? And what did you learn from it? So very eager to know your story, Ken. Over to you and welcome once again.
Thank you, Sister Lata. So the story I'd like to talk about is an earthquake that I experienced in Chile. As you may know, the Andes region especially, which is a mountain range that goes right along South America from Colombia down to Chile, it's very susceptible to earthquakes and even volcanoes in some parts. And so I was giving a public talk can you imagine the name of the talk was Remaining Calm in the Chaos. So it was very prophetic, I think, because I just started to talk about this topic, you know, and whatever situation we're in, we can always find ourselves. And I noticed that, you know, the practice of meditation really helps us to in very practical situations like this one. And so I just started to talk, and suddenly the room started to shake. Now, I've experienced earth tremors before, like a shaking that lasts for a couple of seconds, but not one that lasted for almost 2 minutes. And of course, that's not an earth tremor, it's an earthquake. And later on, we found out it was 7 point something on the Richter scale. So what happened? Of course, the talk had to stop, you know, we couldn't continue, because as the walls started to shake, people got up and ran out of the hall. But some people stayed. And this intrigued me, you know. My internal process seemed to slow right down. The practice of meditation helps it to do that. And it seems in situations that are sort of serious, we develop a natural reaction to things, very calm, you know. So I noticed, this is my mental process, oh, the walls are shaking. Oh, it looks like an earthquake. I've never been in an earthquake before. So internally, I'm thinking like that. And meanwhile, 2/3 of the people got into a state of panic and ran out of the hall. But 1/3 of them stayed. And so I was thinking, how come these people stayed? I was intrigued, my curiosity. So I saw the people running out, but internally I felt extremely calm because nothing had actually happened except a huge shaking. And I noticed that the people were sitting there. They were not going into a state of panic. So naturally I was attracted to that. And my curiosity was there. How come you didn't get up in a state of panic? Why didn't you run out like the other people did? Then one of them told me something that I wasn't aware of, because the building that we were in was made of wood. It wasn't made of concrete. And the person told me that when in an earthquake, a wooden building generally stays standing because of the flexibility in the timber. And whereas a stone, like a brick building, generally cracks and sort of some parts will fall down. And the person said, we're in a wooden building, it will not fall down. The best thing to do is to stay calm. And so they knew this, I didn't know it, but I was naturally attracted to their calm, I would say, state. They were not in panic. And so I asked, okay, what's the best thing to do? And they told me, no, the best thing to do is we just continue meditating, because apparently after an earthquake, there are also aftershocks. And there were a few aftershocks. So we stayed there, we meditated, we stayed there. And everything, you know, finally, of course, the talk had finished, couldn't go on. I just chatted with them about the whole topic of being calm in any situation. And one of them was joking and said that, you know, it seemed like you had arranged this to happen so that you could illustrate your talk. Because it's true, I was very calm in the situation. Because internally, when we meditate, I just finished the meditation, actually, and was starting to speak. We always start with silence, so that's a really good reason for having silence before you do anything. I was in a deep state, gone into a really deep state of peace internally, and I just started to speak, and the earthquake happened. And I was reflecting later on how this is very, very appropriate in a way that we stay in a state of peace, and then we're able to control our reaction to things very, very quickly. I've been in numerous calamities. In fact, there was another one I can talk about. It's similar, but it wasn't an earthquake. It was a plane. I was in Australia. I was on a trip from Sydney to Canberra, and sometimes they put smaller planes to take up these more regional flights. So it was a plane with propellers, and it had about 35 seats. And as we were sitting in Sydney Airport, there was an announcement over the loudspeaker that there were heavy winds. And so the flight will be delayed. Heavy winds, there were winds in Sydney, but in Canberra especially, there were very gusts of wind, very fast gusts of wind. And so the flight was delayed a little bit, but finally they decided to take off. And this is another experience, very similar, very similar. So I was sitting in the plane, and I actually was lucky enough to get a seat where there was no one next to me. And it was one of the exit rows at the front of the plane. And the air hostess, she was strapped in front of me. And so I was facing her in the plane, and she was there. I was sitting there, and the plane took off. And she asked me, if anything happens, will you be able to help me? I said, of course, why not? Now, as we came into Canberra Airport, we could see that the wind was really gusty. You know, we could see even things on the airfield that were, flying along. And we did a couple of rounds, and the pilot said, we may have to go back to Sydney. But then he decided to try to land. Now, as the plane come down, can you imagine? It's a small plane. The wind came hurtling across and picked up the plane on one side, so that the plane started to land on one wheel, not on two wheels. It was sort of landing like this. And of course, everyone in the plane started to scream. Everyone. Even the air hostess, she was so afraid. She was white with fear. And then the pilot managed to correct the plane and take off again. So you can imagine, it came into land, couldn't land, tried to land on one wheel, couldn't do it, and then took off again and did a couple of rounds of the airport, and finally came into land. And again, exactly, and this was around about the same time as this experience in Chile. It was, I think it was in the same year. And I had the same sensation again, that internally I was calm. And this comes from the regular practice of meditation. And again, internally, my thought processes were like this. Oh, there are heavy winds. Oh, the wind is affecting the aircraft's landing. Oh, we are on one wheel only because we're on the ground, but the plane was like this. And it was it was just a question of touch and go, whether the wind would just turn the aircraft over and put it on us, make it crash. But the air pilot managed to correct it and take off again, did a couple of rounds, and then came in and finally was able to land. But I was telling the air hostess, everyone else is screaming. So you can imagine, we're in a plane, everyone's screaming. I think some people were praying, and people were thinking that this is it, this is the end, the plane is going to crash. And I was telling the air hostess, look, ma'am, this is your pilot's really good. Look what he was able to do. He was able to manage to correct the flight. So nothing happened. We're okay. So I'm telling this. She's supposed to keep all of the passengers calm and collected, but there was me trying to keep her calm because nothing happened. And that night there was a talk in our center in Canberra, and I gave the experience. I just shared what had happened that afternoon. And in fact, one lady in the talk, she got up and said, yeah, I was on that flight. Everything he said is true. She said that she'd been on that flight herself. So you see, it's not that, anything can happen, any calamity can happen, but I need to practice internally this state of peace, this state of calm, this state of meditation. And whatever happens will happen. We're able to, and this has happened several times in my life, this sort of thing. Another situation I was in, similar, very similar. I was coming back, we had a center in Brazil, and it was, there was no airport in that particular city, so I had to take a bus. And the bus trip from there to the Sao Paulo, where I lived, was about an 8-hour trip. Brazil's quite big, and so the distances are long. And so the bus, I was sitting on a bus again, and I was lucky enough to get one seat free next to me. So I was actually sleeping. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It was an evening bus ride. And I was sleeping across the 2 seats. And about 2 in the morning, the bus that I was traveling in hit the back of a sugarcane truck going 120 kilometers an hour, more or less, because the roads were really good, very straight. It must have been full velocity. No police. It's different from Australia. The police are not so accurate, checking speeds and things like that. So the bus must have been going, at least 110, and it crashed into the back of a sugarcane truck, and then turned over, flipped over several times, and ended up upside down in a ditch by the side of the highway. And I was inside the bus. Again, I heard screams. People woke up because mostly they were sleeping. Mostly people smashed their faces into the back of the seat in front of them, because they were the days that they didn't have seat belts on buses. So there were many, I could at least notice that many people were seriously injured. And I sort of, again, those mental processes, I start to think internally, oh, the bus has crashed. Now it's rolling over. Now it has stopped. I can smell petrol. Maybe I need to get out before there's some flame that sends the whole bus up in smoke. So I pushed my way out of one of the windows, those safety windows that you can push out with your feet. I got out, and then I started to help people out of the bus. I went around to the front to see the driver. He was dead. I went up to the highway because it was in a ditch. I went up the highway and flagged down a few people driving by, and we started to help people get off the bus. Somebody went to the next gas station to make a call because there were no cell phones in those days. And the ambulances came, and the fire brigade and the police and everyone came. The bus was a mess. There were, I guess, about 7 or 8 people who had died. And I was in the bus, and the only thing that happened to me was a scratch on the knee. And I just went to the wreckage, got my suitcase out of it, and I asked one of the motorists who'd stop if he'd give me a lift back to Sao Paulo. And he said, "What do you mean? What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I was on the bus." And he said, "No, impossible. You were not on that bus. Come on." Because everyone was mostly injured, or at least and some were dead. So again, that the practice of meditation over many years creates a stage when some really strong calamity happens. It creates an internal state in which we're able to really do the best thing for ourselves and for the world. So these are just a few stories about how to be calm in calamities, starting with an earthquake, going through an almost plane crash and a definite bus crash.
Wow, that's a lot of calamities and crises.
Yeah, if you travel around as much as I do, you probably have the probabilities of having something happen to you very much increased.
Yeah, sure.
We
If
should
I
do
could
some-
ask a small question, Ken, that
Yeah.
usually when people are in such situations, the first thing that comes up is fear. They may try to be calm or they're trying not to panic, but when they see others and there's a sense of fear that also generates within. What do you think? How can we overcome that? Or what should we do?
Well, you know, when I meditate, practicing the system of Raja Yoga, which the Brahma Kumaris teaches, I have the experience that actually I am the soul and not the body. And it's a definite experience that there is a difference. I, the thinking being, am different from the physical body. So if there is death, it's not me who dies, it's the body. Even if something bad happens to the body is my car. So there's a problem with the car, but not with the driver. So in meditation, I experience that. That's the first thing, that I am a soul. Just by practicing that, I can overcome fear of death. Secondly, the practice of immediately becoming a detached observer in a situation where there are things going on, unusual things are happening. So let me go as if I'm sitting in the back seat of a theater watching these scenes on the stage. So I go to a state of a detached observer again. I start to see things as they really are and not things that my fear or my state of ignorance creates in my mind. Because we all, in the face of things that we don't know about, we have a very fertile imagination. So when I got back after that bus crash, and I told our sisters in the center in Sao Paulo what had happened, they became more anxious than me, But the thing is that people imagine themselves, and the fear of death is probably the greatest of all fears. But actually, the soul doesn't die. And if I have the experience of being the soul, and I know that I don't die, then that definitely diminishes the fear. Whenever something happens, we remember all of the scenes that we've seen in movies and we've read in books, and for what I'm supposed to feel in this situation because I've seen that scene in a movie, I've seen that scene in a play or in a book. That what I'm supposed to feel? No, I am the controller of my thinking and my reactions, also my responses. So with meditation practice, we can all just have, okay, I'm not afraid because I'm a soul. I become a detached observer and I see the whole thing as it is in very quick time, very quickly. I see it very quickly. And then I make my state immediately. Nothing happened, like in the plane crash. Nothing happened. This pilot's good. Great. Here we are. Nothing happened. And so these are the two things that with practice of meditation, we start to develop naturally.
Thank you, Ken. So if you would like to lead us into some meditation and give us some powerful thoughts we can reflect upon, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Why not?
Thank you.
So first of all, let's all of us sit nicely, sit naturally, not too stiff, not too slack. Eyes unfocused, but open. First thing is that I become aware of this moment. I notice that the past is gone, everything of the past is finished. Future hasn't arrived yet, so literally I'm in this present moment. I'm aware of shapes and forms because my eyes are open. I can hear sounds like, for example, music, my voice. I'm aware of my breathing. It's a miracle. Air coming in and going out naturally. So my breathing becomes natural. I imagine my face, the face muscles completely relaxed. I'm just enjoying the moment. In the same way that I'm sitting on a physical seat, let's all of us imagine a subtle seat where the mind sits. Behind the middle of the forehead, in between the two sides of the brain, 2 centimeters back. This is the seat of consciousness. This is where I, the soul, sit in the body. From here, I give life to every cell in the body. I give life not only to the body, but I give life to all of the things that I do through it. So I'm this subtle energy, the soul. And I can notice that as I start to think these thoughts, very consciously, I can slow down my thinking. I'm the soul. At the moment, I don't have any other desires, so I feel very content. At the moment, I'm not scattered, jumping all over the place. I'm just very conscious that I am this thinking being, giving life to this body, giving life to my activities. I am the spiritual being, giving life to this body. And since I'm not jumping all over the place, I feel very stable, very peaceful. These are my innate qualities, actually. These are my deep, deep qualities that somehow I forget. But in a state of rest, as I am in now, I give myself the chance to experience my own inner qualities of peace, love, happiness, even power. As this tiny spiritual being, I remember also that I'm the child of the One, I'm the child of the Divine, the Source, the one that we call God or Allah or Jehovah or Shiva, so many different names. And I am the child of that one too, and that's why I have these qualities. So I remember that connection too. I'm a peaceful being, remembering who I am and what I am, and remembering my connection to the Source. So, with these thoughts, and knowing that I can come back to these thoughts anytime I want, I slowly come back to the physical surroundings, wherever I am. Okay? Feeling good?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Ken. It really, really helps empower ourselves, I feel, in normal situations as well, but especially needed. And because we have had different times,
Thank
sure.
you.
And for our online viewers, if you would like to know more about us, please visit our website, www.brahmakumaris.org.au. And we'll meet you again with another interesting session. Till then, Merry Christmas once again, and Om Shanti.